it's pretty late over there. Yep, South Carolina. I'm going to South Carolina in 2 weeks. So I'll have to see what that's like. We're going to go over to Greensville, New Zealand, Spain, Florida. All right, perfect. So essentially this is gonna be a new series that we're doing with the HelloCustom YouTube channel, where once per month, probably the third Friday of the month, we're gonna do what we're gonna call as an AMA, Ask Me Anything, where it's gonna be me and a special guest. So this month it's gonna be Jesse Anselm. Jesse has done over $10 million in print products, selling on both Etsy and Amazon. He's the one that got me started on Etsy. He's the one that got me convinced to start selling personalized products. So he's been a mentor to me, and he's also my best friend. Our wives went to elementary school together. So it's really cool, like the synergy there. So the purpose of this is to, when I got started on Etsy, I was really blessed that I had Jesse as like a person that I could ask questions to. Like if I got stuck in a part in the business, if I had questions, I could ask Jesse, so I can just keep moving along the journey. And so we want to kind of offer that to you guys as well, that if you have questions in your business, if you're stuck at a certain part, you feel like you can't get over a certain hurdle in your business, that once per month, we can jump on live together. You can ask your questions, and then we can give you an answer to hopefully help you get over those hurdles. And then the number one question probably everyone has is, okay, you're starting this new series. What happened to the other series? Where is the print on demand $1 million challenge? So I'm going to address that one really quick before we jump into the AMA. So the print on demand $1 million challenge it's been postponed for 1 month. So we're going to officially start it on September 1st. I initially tried to start the challenge back before Mother's Day, when we were actually recording episode 1 live. But I realized that making content is pretty hard. So we in terms of like, we were scripting those videos for weeks, we were filming them for weeks, we were post editing them for weeks. And I was like, there's no time for me to spend 20 hours a week trying to launch an Etsy shop. I'll wait until we launch the software. So in episode 2, I think I'm like, oh, this has been 1 year ago. It was March, but you guys are watching it in July. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait until we launch the software to start the challenge. And I was like, okay, that was another bad idea. I was trying to start an Etsy shop at the same time you launch a software, because we went live and got like thousands of emails the first day. So I've been just full-time customer service the last week. So once things normalize and kind of settle down with the software, we're gonna officially kick off the challenge. And the goal there is, I think it's enough lead time to where we can start the challenge September 1st, highly focus on the 3 main holidays for Q4 in terms of Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Make that the main focus for our initial products and our designs. Have an amazing Q4 and then piggyback off that success going into January. So just stay tuned until September 1st. And then we're gonna be doing monthly result videos. So the first monthly result video will be at probably the first week of October. All right, guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Have you been paying attention, Jesse? I don't think any questions have come in thus far.
Yeah, no questions yet. But yeah, lots of people from all over the world. I love to see that.
So cool. There's actually some familiar faces. One thing with this too, guys, is there are hundreds of people live with us right now. And there's just me and Jesse, just 2 guys. We only have a little over an hour that we can dedicate to this live. So if you do have any questions that we don't address in the video, the replay will be live on the YouTube channel. So if you have any questions post live, feel free to just drop it as a comment, and then we'll address it there. All right. So I'm just reading some of your guys' questions really quick.
Here, I got one right down here from, I'm really bad with names, but Sajal, I'm probably just butchering the name, but I'm gonna start here. So does listing quality matter or more quantity? So I'm gonna start with that part of the question. So quality over quantity is a question I get all the time. And in print on demand in 2023, it's a combination of both. So you need both quality first and foremost and quantity of listings. I think of quantity as this: more potential for my business, more search volume I can leverage. But if I don't have the quality in place and the value adds for my customers, it doesn't matter how many products I launch. I'm always going to be throttled by my knowledge and the market research I've done for the product type I'm selling. So it is a game of both quality first and quantity second, not one or the other.
Perfect. I got a question here where someone says, I mentioned $25 a day in ad spend. Is that per day or is that per listing, and how many listings do you recommend? So Etsy is really nice on ad spend, where you essentially just say, these are the listings I want to advertise, and this is the amount I'm willing to spend per day. So when you create a new account, I think the lowest or the most you can do when you start a brand new account is $25 a day, and then they'll bump up your limits. So I essentially market or advertise all listings for the max allowance. So when we start a new shop, that'll be $25. And I wouldn't say that there's a number of listings I'd recommend. It's, if you're a brand new shop, I would just recommend just advertise all of your listings, and then just be consistent of just consistently launching more listings. And then in regards to advertising, if you watch episode 6, that's kind of where how I use Etsy ads for my launch strategy. In a few weeks, I'm going to come out with another YouTube video where I'm going to go more into Etsy ads, because a lot of people don't teach Etsy ads. It's almost kind of taboo to talk about it, but there's a lot of leverage that you can do with Etsy ads beyond just the launch strategy. In regards to, like, if you turn on Etsy ads, a lot of people don't know what to do with the information or the data. Like, so a lot of people are like, hey, I'm turning on Etsy ads, but they're not spending my budget. Okay, you have a click-through problem. Let's fix that. Or they're spending all of my budget, but I'm not making any profit. Okay, you have a conversion problem. Let's fix that. So I'm going to come out with a video more on Etsy ads probably in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that one.
Awesome.
There's a question here, Jesse. Do you think mugs are still profitable POD on Etsy? What are your thoughts on mugs?
Yeah, so I think definitely, to be honest, out of all the categories out there by print providers, it's the closest one I can think of for being priced almost identical to if you were filling in-house. So I believe that some of these print providers out there actually have deals with companies like DHL that allows them to lower their shipping cost. Because I've personally shipped a lot of coffee mugs, and the shipping cost is what eats into your margin the most. So the potential, as in search volume, is massively behind mugs. And what's nice is actually in the POD space, you can get reasonably cost fulfillment in these product types because of these deals that these print providers have. So I would say, yes, the potential for coffee mugs is absolutely there. And it's something you can leverage with a company like Printify and connect with a print provider on that platform.
Perfect. It looks like we're getting a lot of questions about HelloCustom. So next week, I'm probably gonna do something that we're gonna call office hours, where once a week, I'm just gonna jump on a Zoom call with you guys. You can jump on during the office hours times whenever you want, if you have questions about HelloCustom. Just out of respect of Jesse's time, like, he's not a part of HelloCustom, so I want to kind of tailor this more to just selling on Etsy questions. But just to address a couple of them, currently we only integrate with Printify. Like, we're MVP. HelloCustom is still, it's a baby, so we didn't want to go live with a bunch of features and integrations where more than just the limited stuff we have now could break. So we're going to spend the rest of 2023 kind of ironing out our wrinkles, adding a few features, and then we're going to spend all of 2024 probably integrating with all the major print providers, so like Gelato, Awkward Styles, Printful, and all the other ones that you guys are mentioning. That those will come in 2024. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Awesome. I've seen a couple questions in here regarding thumbnails, listings, keywording. So I'm going to address one of these first off. So Brian was asking, can you discuss thumbnails and listings? So thumbnails are a big one. So this is like your front photo and how you have it presented for a potential buyer to click into your listing. So front photos in general are an extremely important aspect to your listing process. Without a good front photo, you're going to offset a lot of potential buyers, and your click-through rate is going to be much lower. So when you have a super dialed in front photo, this is your entry point for every single buyer on Etsy. So they're finding you in search. That's how, 95% plus of buyers are going to find you, is by typing something into the search bar, seeing the results in front of them, and clicking on your listing versus someone else. So dialing in that thumbnail, having it styled and themed for your ideal buyer and the product type that you're selling in is extremely important. Something that I leverage, and I know Steven does as well, is basically a text badge on the listing, which is basically just a square box or a circle or some shape of some sort that stands out with a more bold color that says a point of emphasis for that potential buyer. So this might be something like fast shipping, color variations offered, click for more details on XYZ thing, something to raise your hand in search and say, hey, I have something that you would like, so click on me and check out what I have to offer. So I think thumbnails are a really major part of your listing process on Etsy. So definitely want to cover that.
To kind of piggyback off of Jesse's answer really quick, there's a couple more questions where people are saying they got stuck in creating the listing. And I think the hardest part in creating the listing is the listing images. So the video that we're releasing on our channel next week is where I'm going to essentially just create a whole video where from scratch, live. It's probably gonna be like an hour-long video, but how I go through the full process of actually creating my listing images inside Canva. So we're going to create a thumbnail example. We're going to create a sizing charts examples. We're going to create, the love it guarantees, the benefit shots, the social proof, the review images. So I'm going to create that from start to finish. That way you guys can see that and like, okay, that's kind of how Steven works through it. I know I go over this in episode 4, but I kind of show you the finished product. And then in that video, I'm going to go over how to actually do it. But, going back to Jesse's answer is, when someone searches something on Etsy, you're buried in search with everyone else's product. You need to do anything that you can to get them from seeing all of your competition to just seeing your product, and that's getting that click. And the only thing that will really entice that click is your thumbnail. So that of the like 5 or 6 images I have on our listing, I probably spend more time on the thumbnail than all of the other images combined. So just kind of keeping that in mind, that I don't just go to Etsy and I type in mug, mockup, and then just, put my graphic on a mockup. We add a lot more intention to that image to try to get that click through.
Awesome. I've seen a few more questions with InnerCirclePrints, HelloCustom. So just to address this, we are planning on integrating with HelloCustom here soon. We've been letting Steven get through this launch phase and all the customer service and the serving he's been doing for all of you guys. So as he gets through this, we're going to begin our integration, which should be fairly quick once we get started on that. So that will be right around the corner for those of you who are wondering.
Definitely before the Christmas rush. So if you have a lot of that, if there's a lot of InnerCirclePrint users in here, we'll have it before the Christmas rush, I promise. And we'll also have all these bugs ironed out before the Christmas rush. Going into the next question is, someone asked, as a new Etsy shop, how should I prepare for holiday sales? So, so as a print shop, it's kind of like how the industry works is, personally, we do about I would say maybe 50% of our profit, probably 50% of our revenue, maybe 80% of our profit for Q4. So Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 is a fraction of the sales of just Q4. So you really want to not underestimate the power of Q4 and the holidays that are in there. The holidays specifically are, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And I always want to launch my designs for an event or a holiday about 8 weeks before the event, because it does take Etsy time to index your rank, your listing, start to show your ads, to get the rank, knowing that 80% of your sales are on page 1. You want to try to get that rank before people actually start searching for these products. So I would start doing your Halloween designs by September 1st. And then by the end of that month, start doing your Thanksgiving designs. And by the end of that month, start doing your Christmas designs. So definitely I'd put all focus on, I would stop starting next month. I would personally stop making the mom shirts and, world's best dad shirts. And I would just focus on, creating these holiday specific designs, because those will sell amazingly during the holiday season because they're relevant for that season.
Nice. I see Deborah asked a question. Is the maximum you can charge for shipping? Is there a maximum for shipping for optimal conversion rates? Steven had spoke about $6.99. Is this dependent on the product? Is what she's asking there. So basically all of the actions I take in my business are fully based on market research. So I like to do a combination of two things. I like to analyze and see what are top sellers for the product type I'm offering. What are they charging for shipping? Because obviously if they're selling at a high volume, customers are willing to pay that, whether that's free shipping, a slight increase, or a lot offset into the shipping. So it really depends on the product type for sure. I would say majority of the time with POD items, it's actually contrary to many people's belief that charging more for shipping is actually better than having a higher price point on the front end and having free shipping. You'll get less traction on your listing when you have free shipping, which is backwards for the last, I don't even know how long, at least 4 or 5 years, I've heard people talk about free shipping. It is false based on the data. So if nothing else, analyze these best sellers around you and then test. It's okay to test. I know sometimes that's the last thing you want to do is test things out to see. But once you start to get some traction, test at, $5.99, $6.99, $7.99, see where that threshold is, because there is pricing thresholds out there, whether it's your product price or the shipping cost as well. You're going to find that at certain points you break through a sales threshold with the pricing dialed in right. And I know Steven maybe can talk on this for a second, but I think you had tested this out with ornaments or a different product type as well, where you were able to raise it up and get to, I forget what number, and it didn't hurt your conversion rate at all.
Yeah. So jumping back really quick to the testing, if you guys are wanting to do testing, I wouldn't be, if you start a test or an A/B test, give it at least a week, because a Monday sells better than a Tuesday, or sells different than a Wednesday, sells different than a weekend. So personally, Sundays are my best sales day out of the whole week. So if I change something on a Saturday and then sales are up on a Sunday, I might think it's what I changed, but like naturally I was already going to be up on a Sunday. Or, you know, I typically get sales more early in the day during the weekdays and later in the day on the weekends because everyone's sleeping in. So if you change something on a Friday night and you wake up like, hey, where are all my sales at? It's Saturday morning. It's like, no, everyone's just sleeping right now. So if you make a change, just, you know, let it ride out for a week. That way it can be more consistent and drawn out to have a better understanding of what you're testing. And then in regards to the shipping prices, I think I mentioned this in episode 4, but it all comes down to the click through, right? Like that's the very first thing that's going to happen is they're going to search a product and then they're going to click on your listing and everything else happens after that. So you really want to put a lot of your attention to try to get that click. And if you have free shipping, you have to make your product more expensive to pay for that shipping. So your listing on Etsy, when they type in mom shirt, for example, the price for that product will be more expensive looking than everyone else. So you want to make it, I always push off as much price onto the shipping as I can to help get more clicks. And I kind of float around $6.99 as like the top that I'll charge for something that is first class. If something weighs more than a pound, you have to charge more than that because shipping costs $9.99 for anything priority. But you'll find too is like in a holiday season during the Christmas season, everyone's late gifters. So you'll see like if you're selling a Christmas gift during Christmas season, people are just like all senses go out the window. Conversion rates go like way up. I think at one point I was charging $11.99 for shipping because we got backlogged on some of our orders, and it actually didn't slow down orders at all. I was charging $11.99 for shipping for something that weighed under a pound, and our sales did not dip. So don't be scared to charge for shipping.
Yeah, that's super good. Sarah asked, what is your strategy for ads listing after you rank to page 1? So what's your strategy for running Etsy ads after you already have a listing that's ranked to page 1? This is a really good question. Do you leave them on? Do you turn them off? What do you do? So I think Steve and I both agree on Etsy ads as a tool for your business to sharpen your listings, to maintain your rank, and to really help you overall with traction. So for me, I personally leave these on. Now, you got to have some common sense here. You're not going to leave an ad turned on that's massively underperforming and just wasting money if you are already ranked, especially, but it tends to be in your favor if you do have an item ranked on page 1 that you aren't going to be overspending. It can happen. I've seen it happen for sure, but what it'll continue to do and help you do with your business is maintain your rank because you're willing to spend money on that. You're going to maintain that placement. So I implore you to, you know, keep that set up even if you are ranked on page 1, because it's not only going to be that one term, by the way. If you have Etsy ads on, it's not just for that one term where you're ranked on page 1, because rank is all based on search terms for the product. So with that being said, you can be sharpening other terms by keeping your ads turned on and potentially drive rank for a relevant term number 2 or term number 3 that you might have for your listing.
Yeah, one more thought on that too is if your ad is on page 1 and your organic is on page 1, you're showing up twice on page 1. You know, so it's like if someone's seeing 100 products on page 1 and they see you twice, you have twice as much of a probability of being clicked on than the competition. And I also agree with what Jesse said is that it helps you maintain your rank. So when I have an ad on page 1 and an organic on page 1, I typically see about 80% of my sales on the organic and 20% of my sales on the ad. So if I turned off the ads, I would probably, those people who are the 20% would probably start buying more of the 80%, but it might be enough to drop you down in rank a little bit because rank is dependent upon sales volume for that search term. So I personally leave it on if it is running okay. One question really quick from a familiar face, Melody, she asked, she's launching with 200 listings. 90% of them are going to be personalized. What happens if she gets a ton of sales at once in regards to HelloCustom, I'm assuming. So we scan your guys' Etsy shop every 10 minutes. So whether you're doing 1,000 orders a day or 1 order a day, if the product has a template for it in HelloCustom, we add it over to your approval queue. So volume will not be a problem during a Christmas season, during a Christmas rush. I'll personally sell 1,000 things a day. So I'm getting like a sell every few minutes, and it should be able to withhold that, not a problem.
Awesome. Aaron asked, on a personal level, how are you guys holding up during the crazy busy period when you guys are both launching new services? Do you have big teams supporting you? That's a great question. So I'll speak on my half first of the equation here. So with InnerCirclePrints, I have a lot of experience in the printing space. I've printed products now for over 5 years. We're currently in a 6,000 square foot warehouse. We're moving into a bigger facility, but we have the ability to scale up to 65 plus employees for production. I have a full-time team here for support and for, you know, managing these orders and whatnot too. So I definitely have a team on my side helping me out, and I'm sure Steven will have people in place as needed as well. So I'll send it over to you, Steven.
Yeah, it's definitely a season. So I'm knowing that it's a season, it's okay. So it's like, when I first launched my Etsy shop, I was working 16 hours a day for 90 days straight. I just knew that this was a season. So like I was able to do it, even though it was terrible. During the next Christmas season, we launched Christmas ornaments. I was working 16 hours a day. We sold 20,000 ornaments in 30 days for the first time launching that product. It was a season, right? So same thing with launching a software. It's like, it's a lot of work right now, but it's a season. So it's definitely a lot of work. But me and Jesse was actually just talking before this call. And the coolest thing about what we're doing now is we went from being an Etsy seller where like everyone's a competition, where like Jesse by default is an open book. He loves sharing, and like me as well. Like I'm an open book. Like I love giving it all. But if we have competition, like all the strategies that I give away in episodes, 1 through 6 is like, I always had to hold those close to my heart because like the food on my children's plates was dependent upon that business, right? So it kind of conflicted with what I wanted to do and the business that I was running. And we kind of sidestepped from being like an Etsy seller. We still are, but creating businesses where we can serve Etsy sellers. And that's just way more fulfilling for the two of us. So like, it's a season, but we're loving the way that it's going, that we're able to have these conversations, give away 100% of the strategies for free, because what benefits you guys will benefit the softwares, the businesses that we launch. So it's been a blessing in that sense.
Yeah, super good. Andrea said, for those of us using Printify, what can we do to compete with shops offering custom packaging? So whenever you're looking at, you have a product type and you have a lot of sellers on Etsy that do fulfill orders themselves, and they can do things like custom packaging or include different things. So the biggest thing you have to reference is in the POD space. The number one thing you can do to add value is fully predicated on your design itself. And so it doesn't mean you have to be an expert graphic designer. It just means that for the market that you're selling products in, I call these micro markets, just meaning individual products I'm offering in my business for a specific product type. I need to make sure that the design I'm offering isn't something that's been done 55 times over, or isn't something that, isn't really in line with the market. I want to add value through my design for that specific market. So that's one way in which you can add value. It's probably the biggest lever in the POD space, but it's not the only one. So what I'm really trying to get at here is, if other, business owners have, they have custom packaging or they have other things that you can't offer, look at all the resources you do have to offer, do your market research to understand what matters to those buyers, and fully tailor your offer in that direction and look to add value, and you'll be entirely fine. I've seen, many POD sellers using Printify without custom packaging and things like that, and they're still crushing it in the 6 and 7 figures. So, and that kind of translates right into Steven's software, HelloCustom. That would be one big piece, is personalization. If you're talking about like, custom packaging, if you're leveraging personalization now as a POD seller, that's a big way to add value, even if you don't have the custom packaging.
Yeah, I'll kind of jump into that one really quick too, because I have some thoughts on that. Is I think these companies are offering custom packaging for their users, but I think they're more meant for people who sell on Shopify. So like when you sell on Shopify, like you have to have a brand, you have to have like a website, and I think custom packaging is really important for those sellers. But when you sell on Etsy, people are not going to Etsy and searching for your brand name. They're searching for, mom gift for Nina, Christmas gift for my brother. They're not searching for your brand. And I think I mentioned this in episode 1, is like we fall underneath the halo of Etsy's branding, where when somebody buys something on Etsy from you and someone's like, hey, where'd you get that? They say Etsy. They don't say, oh, this specific shop on Etsy. They say Etsy. So I actually don't focus on branding. I just, I focus on more of like the style and the designs and the listings, not the branding. So I wouldn't spend any money on custom packaging, because I feel like that's just gonna be a bigger expense, but with no benefit on the Etsy marketplace. That's my personal opinion. I see one question here, and I'm going to throw it your way, Jesse, really quick. So Mohammed asks, what do you guys think, or have you guys tried Amazon FBM POD? So essentially selling POD products on Amazon FBM. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity. I think you're a lot less limited than you are with Merch by Amazon. You have a lot more play with what you can do. Especially now, if you're trying to leverage personalization, which I know in the future or near future, Stephen, you'll be integrating with Amazon as well. But with all that being said, I've sold, over 250,000 products FBM on Amazon. Vast majority of these are print products. So it's something you can absolutely do and can add a lot of value. Now, my focus has always been, 70, 80+% of my products have been personalized. So that's one way in which I've been able to stand out amongst the competition and the Prime badges around me on Amazon, but still sell over 250,000 units. And these are my same exact products. And this actually, goes into a question. I think someone's asking, do you start on Etsy or do you do Amazon? Which one should I start with? And so for me, it's always been Etsy first, Amazon second. I refer to Amazon as doubling my business potential. I put in all this time, the blood, sweat, and tears into my Etsy listings. All my market research is done there. And now that I have this beautiful product made that should sell really well, leveraging search volume, a high percentage of that time, it correlates over to Amazon as well. There's still buyers over there looking for products that I have to offer. So by getting my products over on Amazon, I'm doubling up my potential. And by doing so, I've been able to sell, 420,000 or more items on Etsy and over 250,000 items on Amazon now that are the exact same ones that I have on Etsy.
The really cool thing about that too is I think it works in Jesse's scenario because 80-90% of your products are personalized. So if you can buy a mug, one mug and they're the exact same style mug, but one is FBA and one is FBM, which is like fulfilled by Amazon 2 days to your door, or POD, it's like 4 days for production, 4 days for shipping, it gets to you next week. I don't think Amazon would work for generic designs because you're competing against people who do FBA. It gets to you in 2 days. But if the product is personalized, the shoppers know that, hey, this isn't stock in Amazon's warehouse. They have to get my order, make the product, and ship it to me. So I think Amazon works if your products are personalized. And what's really cool about that is in my shop, we sell Christmas ornaments as one of our products. Is we launched like a handful of ornaments on Amazon this last season. So we have like 100 ornaments on Etsy. We launched like 10 ornaments on Amazon, all personalized. And those 10 ornaments on Amazon, we're almost doing as much as our 100 ornaments on Etsy because there's a lot less people selling these products on Amazon because everyone's selling on Etsy. And I think the reason why that is because a lot of these POD companies don't integrate with Amazon. Like Printify does not integrate with Amazon. Therefore, you'd have to do it all manual. So us, HelloCustom will be integrating with Amazon. So there might be a workaround there where you kind of funnel them through us to Printify, or Jesse's integrating with Amazon. So if you do InnerCirclePrints, you can get to Amazon that way too. So that was my intake there, is I think personalized as well if on Amazon. And I would think about it twice if it wasn't.
Yeah, it's super good. And to piggyback off that, Aaron asked, would you recommend a mixture of custom products and non-custom products, or concentrate only on the custom product side? So for me, that would come down to each individual product I'm launching. So what I like to do is I like to analyze these markets before I'm launching a product or making my design for it. And so that will dictate a lot. If I'm seeing that no one is leveraging personalization, which you'll see that quite often actually because of the reach with personalization, the ability to do it in the POD space to date, where if no one's leveraging personalization, that is usually a good key for you to leverage personalization. If everyone and their sister has leveraged personalization already, you don't have to. But for some products, it's extremely valuable. So like Steven references, like with a coffee mug for someone specifically, I think of this all the time with like a product for a grandmother or a mother-in-law or whatever it may be. Imagine getting your grandkids' names on an item. Things like that are really valuable for that buyer. So always correlating back to the relevancy of who this item is for, who's purchasing it. And if it was personalized, would that add more value for that market? And if the answer is yes, I would lean on the side of personalization for sure.
Perfect. Melody said, you guys are the best in the industry, no BS. I've been studying consistently since March and I've never found the quality of what you guys share. I'm so grateful for you both. Thank you so much. So again, like I love being able to finally talk about these things, because I've been kind of keeping it, close to home for the last 3 years. Ivy said, Steven, assuming that you hit your goal for the print on demand $1 million challenge, so $1 million revenue, and you're aiming for a 20 to 25% margin, does that mean that you're a one-person business that takes home $200,000 to $250,000? Yes, that is correct. So the people who, so I don't do POD yet. With the challenge, I will be doing POD, but we have a lot of friends in the industry that do POD at a high level. And what they typically see is about a 20 to 25% margin profit after all fees and advertising, and Etsy gets their share, Printify gets their share. So if I do hit $1 million, it'll be $200,000 to $250,000. So with the challenge, it'll be really I'm really curious to see if I can get to $1 million in 12 months, because it does take that time to kind of ramp up. But I know if 100% I'll be able to get to at least $1 million run rate. But I do think launching in Q4 will give me that nice little big spike and then the ramp. So that I think that'll help a lot.
That's great. There was a few questions that just popped in for InnerCirclePrints. So I'll answer those real quick here. Just for clarity for everyone, I have a limited number of spots in InnerCirclePrints for a reason. I'm only one guy and I can only coach and serve so many clients at once. We're actually right now 2 spots away from capacity right now. So some people are asking about monthly payments and things like that. I don't want to pitch InnerCirclePrints right now, so let's answer it quickly. I can do a 3-month payment plan, or I can do it paid in full. It's an annual cost. It's not a one-time fee, it's annual. So definitely be aware of that. But if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me, either jesse@innercircleprints.com or send me a message through Instagram would be great. But again, I have 2 spots left. So back to the questionnaire.
All right, perfect. So RMB video has asked, how do you guys handle shipping issues when items get lost or just sit for a few days at some random point in the shipping? So I think I've said this before, I'm kind of a little lazy at certain parts of my business. So, and I always, again, on all my listings, I have something that say like a love it guarantee. So if you're not 100% happy, we're just gonna give you your money back. We're not here to we're here to serve first and get money as a byproduct. So if I have found personally that, with a product, we're making about $5 profit, and the time and I have employees, so there's labor costs. So the time it takes for an employee to go call the UPS or back and forth with the messaging and then the waiting and then checking up on it, following through that, sometimes in labor, because if it takes them 30 minutes to do that, I actually paid more money in labor than it was to just let's just send them a new product. So personally, I'm always, if someone's not happy, whether it's the product is too big, even if the fault's on there, where they have a typo and we made it 100% correct, if they're not 100% happy, we just give them a full refund or send them a free replacement. And that's just something that we do in my personal business. I would say that 99.9% of Etsy sellers don't do that, and that's totally okay. And they still have 5-star averages on the shop, where they have in their TOS where no refunds are accepted, or no returns are allowed, and only refunds after 24 hours or something like that. So do what makes sense to you. That's just what I do personally.
That's awesome. What offer tactics do you suggest for holiday sales? This is a good question. There's multiple offer tactics you can do. So this would be things like, this is an evergreen one that you can use year round, which is running a low display price. So that's when you have one variation on your listings knocked down to give yourself a higher click-through rate. That would happen year round, but also great for the holiday season. Something that's a little bit, it's along the same lines, and it's something that both Steven and I do, which is dropping your price down before the season hits to really drive rank before the search volume increases. Do you know who taught me that? For anyone who's on here who's told me talking about this, Steven Chin taught me this method, this price drop to drive rank right here, where you can do it. And if you do it right before a holiday season, the beauty of this is you can lock, as long as your offer is good, your product's good, your design's good, it all makes sense, because a low price is only going to get you there so far. But if you drop your price down before the search volume hits, it only takes so many sales to get to page 1 for a given term before the search volume is 5 or 10x that amount. So it takes a lot less effort to get to page 1 if your product is good. Then once you lock in there, because a vast majority of sales happen at the top to middle of the page 1 results as people are scrolling through, you tend to lock in your positioning even when you move your price point back up. Again, I learned this directly from Steven, so I give him all the credit for that. But this tactic is absolutely amazing for the holiday season. So I'd highly suggest that. One other thing too, this is something I've tested out for specifically holiday specific. So I've done this for Mother's Day. This is using a display badge, so a badge on your front listing photo, and actually tailoring that to the holiday season. So I've done like a Mother's Day badge. You could do one for Christmas, whatever that makes it more relevant for that buyer that's looking at your product. Even if it's an evergreen product, maybe it's not related to Christmas directly, but if you had a badge on there that says something about this being a great holiday gift, and it was, red with snowflakes or something like that, it's more relevant, which is going to increase your click-through rate. So that's something I highly suggest doing if you have the time to change over your badges on your front photos.
Yeah, I do everything that Jesse just mentioned. It makes sense, because if sales velocity is the number one thing that drives rank, ornaments are not selling at a high volume during October. That's what Halloween stuff is doing. So what I do, again, I sell ornaments as one of my products, is right after Halloween, I drop the price down, because ornaments might be selling like 1 a day at that point, because you're just getting kind of close. There are some early shoppers. So if it takes in November, if in October, you only have to sell 10 a day to get ranked to page 1, In December, you're gonna have to sell 100 a day to get ranked to page 1. So yes, you dropped your price, you're making less per unit, but if you get ranked to page 1, you're gonna go from 10 to 100. So it's worth just at least being break even for those 30 days to then raise your price going into November and get 10x more sales in December. Mohammed asked 2 questions back to back. He says, how accurate is Everbee for trendy listings? So independent of who you use, whether it's Laura or Everbee, or if there's probably a dozen other ones, they're never 100% accurate because Etsy does not give them the information. So Etsy only gives them ABC, and they have to do all this code to try to get to XYZ, right? So it's like they do what they can given the apples that they're given to try to make the lemonade that they give you, right? So it's like it's never going to be accurate. I use them myself as like direction. So if it says like if Everbee thinks this one sells 10 a day and it thinks another one sells 100 a day, I don't know if it is, I don't think either of them are correct, but I just know that this one sells more than that one, if that makes sense. I use it almost as a compass. The second one he said is, do trends start on Etsy or Amazon? I would say, depending on where you're selling, look for trends there. So I wouldn't be looking on Amazon for trends for Etsy and vice versa. If you're selling on Etsy, stay on Etsy because it's all marketplace dependent. Things that sell good on Etsy might not sell good on Amazon and vice versa.
Super good. Someone was asking, we analyzed 20 apparel stores, and after going from Z to A, so many items repeat themselves. It feels like the themes are very saturated. Should we skip these? If we see lots of basically you're seeing the same product over and over again. So this is where you have to be careful. If you're using a tool like Everbee or Allura or any of the other ones out there, and you're building a list of products that are in demand because you can see the estimated sales on them, you have to be careful when you're taking products off the list. The reason being is that the base for an item can look almost identical, but it can be different. So for example, a mom shirt, a new mom shirt, and a best mom ever shirt are 3 different products, even though they're all mom shirts. So the search volume for those is going to be, it's very similar. It's going to be correlated keywords there. However, these are 3 different items. These are people looking for a mom shirt for a new mom, someone who just found out they're going to be a mom, or just had a child. One that's for a best mom ever, which is a specific phrase that someone's looking for. And then a mom shirt in general might encompass all those. So why I give that example is just be careful when you're removing items from a list you generate to not accidentally remove what you think is a duplicate, but it's actually more search volume for you to leverage, because search volume is the potential for your business.
I'll kind of jump in on that one too. So what I'm about to say might be actually really good. So I have like timestamp, 38 minutes. So if you guys want to watch the replay, 38 minutes is a time to come back to listen to this. So when doing the master list, one reason why I've had a lot of people on these calls that I'm doing where there's like, hey, like you don't look at competition. Like mom shirt is so saturated. Why are you guys doing apparel, and why are you guys doing mom shirts? One step in doing the master list is people that we want to mirror is I say that they have to be new 1 to 3 years. So they were new. They jumped into independent of competition, Etsy selling these products, and they were able to carve their spot in the market. So I don't care how competitive it is. Someone in the last 1 to 3 years knew a new Etsy seller is able to jump in and carve their spot. And me as a seasoned seller, I think I can do that too. So that's kind of one reason why that's one criteria. The next one is the step number 4 in that is creating your success attributes. Is if you're like, hey, everyone's doing mom shirt, the reason why I go through like the top 50 listings and see kind of what's the theme of their designs. Like everyone's doing colored letters with a wave effect, maybe retro, center chest. So then when you go back to listing number 1, it's like, hey, theirs was just a white design. Okay, well, I'm gonna go take those success attributes and recreate that design, but use the color letters, the wave, the retro, grunge, center chest. So that's kind of how you go back to listing number 1 and make it more different, given the theme of what works. So this is kind of where, if you're having a hard time creating the master list and coming up with products and niches that are doing well, independent of the master list, there's probably like 10. So there's probably like, I'm trying to think of how I best to describe this. So I call these like evergreen daily occasions that happen every single day, that if you have designs for these, you'll get daily sales. So boom, timestamp. So there are occasions that happen every single day that are just as relevant as a Christmas or a holiday, that if you have a design for it, you will get sales. So for example, people get engaged every single day. So if you have a design for like engagement, and these are all perfect for personalization, like Stephen and Destiny engaged 2023. If people are getting engaged every single day, people are getting married every single day. People are having anniversaries every single day. People are having birthdays every single day. People are getting married, having babies every single day. So, the newborn baby designs. And then that when people have kids, they have, godparent proposal gifts. There's baptism gifts. People get new pets. So, new puppy stuff. And birthdays, people people and animals die. So memorial gifts, world's best dog, Daisy, 2011 to 2023. So these are occasions that happen every single day that I have designs in every single one. And that's kind of gives me like a nice, consistent, I think base in sales. And again, these are all perfect for personalization.
That was super good. Super good. Dropping gold over there. John said, do you start with max ad spend on listings launch or scale up when seeing traction? When do you give up on this listing? So for me, I'll answer what I do there is before I even branch into a product type. And for those of you who don't know, I focus on one product type at a time. I scale it out in full, and then I move on to the next. So with that being said, before I'm even thinking about ad spend, I know I'm going to spend money on ads. I want to make sure my research and development is done right on the front end so that when I toggle that Etsy ad button on, I know that there's a lot of potential behind it. So for me, the beginning stages, the building blocks for your business are so important. So if you find yourself new to this whole thing or new to a product category, study, and build the quality in your photos, your pricing structure, how you're going to keyword your listings, your offer tactics, your design attributes, all the things you're going to need to be equipped with to be successful in that product type. Now, if that is all in place, I absolutely suggest bumping your ad spend all the way up and turning every listing on as you launch. This is the way I approach it, which scares a lot of people, is I'm very confident in my work and I turn my Etsy ads on and I don't look. I have my blinders up. I'm not even looking at the data. I'm just launching product, launch another product, launch another product, launch another product to the best of my abilities. I trust in the process. And once I get to, a few hundred products listed, I will then look back. Not to say that I'm not, I don't just close my eyes forever and never look at my data of my ad spend. I think that would not be smart, but I'm not concerned if I'm seeing, a little bit of a weaker return on ad spend at first, because over time, as some of those products do take off, I know they're going to do really well. So historically, overall, I've always maintained profitability over the long term with all of my Etsy ads, even if some do underperform. So to answer your question though, specifically, like when do you give up on a listing? So to get really specific here, there's a point in time, let's say you're a few months in with a listing and you had Etsy ads on, maybe even just 30 days. 30 days is enough to get a decent amount of data unless it was specifically for an event. If you can see that it's just wasting money. You've spent $30 on ads, $40 on ads, and you haven't had a single sale. You had 120 clicks on this, but not one sale has happened. What that is telling you is something is broken with that listing. Whether it is your keywording process you did with your title or tags, or the design elements you're deploying maybe just aren't a fit for that market, whatever it may be, it's Etsy ads are telling you. Now, Etsy's not perfect, and Etsy does waste your money sometimes, and they will bid on terms that you would wish they didn't. So when Etsy gives us more control over Etsy ads, we're all going to dominate because we're going to be a lot more specific with it. However, at a certain point in time, usually for me, it's about $20 in clicks without a single sale, or slightly beyond that. If that is the scenario, I'll turn it off and I'll come back to it later to revamp that listing and identify what was broken with it. Was it my design? Was it my SEO? Are my photo templates bad? What's going on here? And I'll fix that issue and then reactivate that ad.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Jesse was just saying. One thing that I like to point out here is a lot of people doing print on demand, like this isn't their full-time job. It's like they have a full-time job or they have full-time commitments, and this is kind of a thing that they're trying to do on top of everything. So you got to be really cognitive of your time. Like there's busy work and then there's productive work. So it's really easy and it makes total sense. Like I launched a listing, now I'm like, look at the data and the numbers and the Etsy ads and my daily spend, and you just spend all this time just looking at the numbers, where you would probably make more money just launching 5 more listings than you spent the time just looking at all those numbers. So it does make sense to work in sprints. Like I'm gonna go launch 100 listings and then come back and then clean up, and then launch 100 listings, then come back and then clean up. That way you're going to be as efficient as possible. One more note I wanted to note, guys, is we probably have about another 15 minutes live. So if we skipped over anyone's question, because we're just rolling through this super quick, feel free to just retype it to the bottom, because I'm getting towards the bottom of the list. I think we're kind of wrapping up here. But if we missed one, just repost it to the bottom and we'll add it again. And then one was, who inspired you guys to do print on demand? So for me personally, it was Jesse. Jesse was the one that was like, hey, dude, you got to launch a mask business. And then from there, I fell in love with Etsy and then continued from there. And I know Jesse started a jewelry business. We actually, if you haven't watched Jesse's interview, it was posted last Friday. It was an amazing interview. We flew down to Jesse, spent the day with him. We recorded for 15 hours. We recorded for 7 hours to make a 15-minute video. So it's a really good interview. So feel free to go give that a watch, learn more about Jesse and what he's doing.
I appreciate that. Someone said, after my very first sale on Monday, I received an email from Etsy saying that they put a hold on my deposit because of being a new seller. How come? What can I do? I'm very short on money. So Etsy has a 90-day reserve period as a new seller that you're in. So for 90 days, there's a slower release on your funds. It's usually like every 1 to 2 weeks you get that release. This also will happen to you if you get trademark infringement multiple times over, or there's something broken with your account health that's signaling to Etsy, hey, there's some sort of risk here, and they'll put a temporary hold on your account. So this is normal. You have to get to that 90-day period of time. And then after that, you'll be able to get your funds next day, as long as you're staying within Etsy's TOS.
Yeah, right now Etsy's, I think, having a big issue where like when we created the Etsy account for the challenge, my account got suspended for 4 weeks and like no one was getting back to me. I was literally about to book tickets down to their headquarters to see if I could just talk to somebody, because they just suspend your account and then they ghost you for like a month, and then they finally just randomly reactivate it in the middle of the night. So I think there's a lot of people that are joining right now and their system isn't set up for it. Aaron Gale asked, if you have hundreds of products with multiple variations, how do you edit your prices across the whole catalog to be the most efficient way? So I do the same price for if I only sell apparel, all apparel is the same price. I don't do sales on some and different prices on some other, if I'm selling mugs, all mugs are the same price because it's just the graphic that is different. But I do make different prices of the variations of that. So I'm a big believer in having a lower display price because that will help your click through. I know some people don't like it because it's kind of a bait and switch, but they still see the price point before they add it to cart. So I'm just trying to get their click. So what I do is I take one of what I predict to be the slowest selling SKU, which might be like if you're doing apparel, like a extra small pink, and making that one, at my break even price, maybe even a little bit in the red. That way it looks super cheap. And then the rest of the products I make at a higher price point. I think I go over this in episode 4, but the price point that I like the most is like $17.49 because I do have the free shipping over $35. So if somebody buys one product at $17.49, if they buy 2 products, it's $34.98. So they have to buy 3 products to get free shipping. And I do a markup on the shipping. So by that 3rd product, I made enough. So the markup on the shipping almost motivates them to buy a 3rd product because the shipping is so expensive. And then that 3rd product will pay for the shipping for the first 2. So that's my input on the pricing strategy.
Yeah, that's great. And I think with what Aaron was asking too, he's wondering like with that, how do you edit the price points on all of these? Because if you're running like the price drop to drive rank strategy, the best thing you can do is run a sale on your entire shop or that product type that you're running it on. So let's say you might run like a daily sale at like, let's say 30%, 40%. You can bump that to 50 or 60% off to get you to that break even price point. And it's really easy just to select those listings and run the sale as long as they're either in a section in your shop or if you're just running it on your whole shop in general. So coming into like a major season, like, the holiday season Q4, right around November, running for like 2 weeks, the price drop to drive rank strategy, you can just run an entire sale on your whole shop to get that momentum and then flip your price point back up just by moving the daily sale back to the original amount that you have. So just run an additional percentage off, if that makes sense.
So jumping on that really quick is one other way you can do it too is you can select go to the listings, type in like shirts, so it shows all your shirts, not your mugs, your other products. And then you can do like a bulk edit where you say like edit price. You can say like decrease by 20%. And then that way you can decrease it there, keep yourself to 50% off. One thing that Jesse did mention that it was a strategy that the daily flash sales. So if you're not doing that, I also recommend that you guys are doing daily flash sales. Is every single day before we go to bed, Jesse does the same thing, is we go into our Etsy app, we set a sale for the next day. So like tonight, I'm going to set a sale for July 29th. It starts and then it ends July 29th. So it's a 24-hour flash sale, 50% off. And the reason why we do this is, again, not everyone doesn't like these strategies, but we're just telling you what we do, is it creates urgency, right? It's like, so when someone comes to your listing, we got their click. So we got them to do that first step, but now our conversion, we found that like there's a badge that if you're under 24 hours for your sale, it'll say sale ends in 17 hours. So there is no time to go home and ask your wife for permission to buy this mug or vice versa, or to think about it or to sleep on it because tomorrow the sale will go up. But every single day we just renew the sale. So and I do get messages every single day of people asking us to hold the sale for the next day. So if I'm getting messaged every single day about it, I know there's a lot of people who are seeing it and thinking that and buying it. So that will definitely help your guys' conversion rate. If you're running sales, it only takes like 30 seconds. You just go to the Etsy app, click on sale, select the dates, click select all, apply. It takes 30 seconds and it will help your guys' Etsy shop make more sales.
Yeah, that's super good. Michael asked, do you have any tips for finding t-shirt designs that are customizable? Tumblers, phone cases, and ornaments seem to be ideal for customization, but t-shirts less so. Any suggestions? So I think what you're seeing is that the fact that POD sellers haven't had access to easily, offer personalization on their products. So with that being said, that barrier to entry has offset a lot of POD sellers from even doing it in the first place, which is why you're seeing that personalization isn't really happening on t-shirts. You might see that for ornaments or whatever it may be, because those are people who have fulfilled them themselves. So with that being said, that means that t-shirts are a gold mine for personalization because it's been underutilized. And we all know on Etsy, personalization wins. So if you leverage personalization in the product type of t-shirts, you're probably going to set yourself up at a 3x advantage to someone who's not doing it. So that's just more of an indicator for you on all these designs you're seeing that are selling well. You could do a design with personalization offered for that market and do better than what you're seeing out there already. So that's a good indicator for you.
So to go back to that 39-minute timestamp I gave, is those examples would be great. Like, shirts that do really well, like the group listings, like someone's getting married, it's like the bride and the bridesmaids. Imagine if there was a shirt where it was like the bridesmaid shirt, and then you had the name of the bride. It's like, whatever the design is, and then it had her name on it, or you had the date, or it had the location of, like, you guys are going to Las Vegas or something. It just makes it that much more personalized to their occasion, make it that much more relevant. And then if you're selling for the same price, you're a better bargain. One person asked a question. They said, and this is, we're going to release a YouTube video on this here in the next couple of weeks, going over Etsy ads more specifically. But they said they've reworked their entire shop. Their ad budget is set to $200 a day, but they're barely spending $1 a day. And they've been waiting for like a week for it to start spending. So right now, so Etsy ads are PPC, pay per click. If no one clicks onto your listings, you don't spend anything. So just because your budget is $200 a day, that doesn't mean you're going to spend $200 a day. So therefore, you have a click-through problem. The number one cause for a click-through problem is your thumbnail. So I would go back and I would relook at your thumbnail to see how can I make my thumbnail more enticing. And Jesse gave some advice earlier where, like, putting like little badges on that main image, like, great Christmas gift for the products during Christmas seasons, or different your variations, or anything to increase your curiosity to get that click. Etsy will start spending your money. And I believe ad placement is dependent upon your conversion rate for that search term. So I would also work on your conversion rate, think about your conversion rate with that as well.
Yeah, that's super good. And also with that too, you got to look at the number of listings you have. So I would assume they've only spent $1. I think Steven is spot on with that. I would assume that, you have some listings up, but my question would be, how many products do you have listed? Because you're only going to be able to spend so much, it's going to be more than $1 for sure if your thumbnail is dialed in, but the more listings you have leveraging search volume in the right way, the more Etsy will be able to spend, because you have more potential to leverage that Etsy is giving you. So definitely check your total listing count as well.
POD Paul says, what's up, POD Paul? Any reason why you guys don't schedule 7 sales in a row? You can definitely do that. So the only time you wouldn't do that is if you're constantly launching new listings. So if you schedule out 7 days in a row and you launch 5 listings tomorrow, 5 listings the next day, those listings won't be automatically applied to it. So if you're actively launching listings, I usually just do it day by day. Right now, I'm not actively launching listings, but I've been just in the habit of just doing it every night before bed. And that's the only reason why I personally just do it every night. But if you've got all your listings live, you can just schedule a month out in advance and just do it once per month if you want.
Super good. Someone asked, do you price personalized products slightly more than non-personalized? So I think right here, I would price them the same. Obviously, you got to do what you got to do. If there's heavy personalization with like photos and multiple names, if you need to slightly increase that for any reason, awesome. This is why HelloCustom exists, is to serve these markets. So I think HelloCustom will be your best friend there. But I would not suggest personally increasing the price that much on them, because I would rather someone find a product that's very comparatively priced, but now I have more value, meaning that I'm going to get the sale 3 or 4 times more than the non-personalized product next to me. So I would suggest about the same price.
Yeah, just imagine if your product is valued 20% more, but it's sold for the same price. They're gonna buy your product over the competition. Ariana asks, can I customize digital products with HelloCustom? Maybe in the future, but I wouldn't recommend it right now, because right now we will personalize the graphic, and then you can only download it as a JPEG, PNG, and PDF, not SVG. So I know a lot of people who do digital products to give it to you as an SVG. That's not a supported download that we have today. So I would just wait, and that might be something we address in the near future.
How do you know if your designs, SEO, or what is preventing a shop from getting sales? I need help. So like I said, whenever you're analyzing this data, you're deciding on, what is the factor that's causing this. If you have a super high ACoS, like on your Etsy ad side, so meaning you're spending a lot of money, but you're not really getting sales in return, usually that's going to be geared towards one of two things. It's either going to be your design quality is weak for that market, meaning people may be intrigued by your front photo, they click on it, but they don't really want it. This could also be your pricing structure could be off. This could also be that your photos are not built out in full, where you're not adding the value and answering those questions. So you need to ask yourself, have I done the research thoroughly to know that my photo templates answer all of my buyers' frequently asked questions? They hit all the hot and cold points for this product type. They're styled and themed in the way in which the buyers would like them. If you can say yes, yes, yes to that, awesome. It's probably not your photo templates. Can you confidently say, hey, I created a new design for this market, but it's utilizing design attributes that I know work collectively for this product type I'm selling. And if you can say, yes, these design attributes are great for this, I've seen these on bestsellers, but these are underutilized right now for this product type, then it's probably not your design. If you can say, so you're saying yes to your photo templates, yes to your design, then it would point to either your SEO, so your keywording on your titles and tags, or your price point. If you're saying, okay, I've seen on my price points that, I'm very competitively priced based on all these competitors that are selling at scale, then it's probably not your price point. Then that would lead you to, like I said, your keywords. So your titles and tags, are you missing relevancy there? Are you too broad with your titles, too broad with your tags, and missing the specifics behind it to be profitable there? So you got to really analyze and ask yourself those questions and approach it in a really logical manner. I think one of the ways in which that Steve and I have been able to win is that we're very logical with things. We don't make things overcomplicated. We think about it from a logical standpoint. Point A leading to point B to point C to point D to point E, etc. So really ask yourself these questions, and you'll be able to pinpoint what the problem is with your listing.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think I go over that in episode 4 in regards to, it's like the journey that a buyer takes is the same for every single time. Every single time you get a sale on Etsy, the person took the exact same steps to get to that sale, where they searched for something, they saw a bunch of stuff, they clicked on one, they looked at some stuff, they added to cart, they saw the shipping, the lead times, maybe they bounced, they bought, post-purchase, maybe they left a review. So it's like, what you can do is you can kind of map out all of those steps and almost like a checklist. Like, am I having the problem here? Am I having the problem here, 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 here? And then if you make it as fluid as possible, remove as much friction as possible, that'll probably solve a lot of those problems. Sally just mentioned, I thought that the sale automatically is now applied to new items just listed in your store. So I knew that Etsy just came up with a new feature where you can select all. I didn't realize that was select all, then all new ones when that sale hits. So I'll definitely test that. So if so, I might start, batch working my daily flash sales.
That's awesome. POD Paul, what's up, Paul? I know Steven shouted you out too. We're just going to both shout you out. Started selling digital download Tumblr wraps and experienced fast conversions. I think this is because the risk is lower with instant downloads for the buyer. Could this drive rank for other POD listings? So you do have to understand one fundamental piece here. The designs, these digital files, are going to be supplying one end of the market, and the POD items, the physical products, are supplying another end of the market. So the designs are either a seller making a purchase on those designs to utilize for what they have to offer, or it's like a hobbyist who's buying those design files to use for their personal like production or for an event or whatever it may be. So with that being said, I don't think that data really correlates over to the physical item. The buyer for these items already have graphics on them. So I would not mix the two pieces, if that makes sense.
Great. So View 8 gave us an answer to the question in regards to the ad spend only spending $1 per day, even though he or she has a $200 daily limit. So essentially, the person turned off their ads. They revamped 30 Halloween themed listings. They waited a week if they're only spending $1 a day for those 30 listings. So one, if you're only running ads for Halloween listings, we're in July. So the search volume for Halloween themed stuff is very little. So you just launched these a week ago. So they're just probably just now getting indexed, but the search volume is very low. So I think that's just because I would say give it one more month, and then you'll start getting more clicks onto those specific products.
Awesome. What can be considered a good click-through rate and return on ad spend on Etsy? So click-through rate for me, I've never been able to lock in like this is a good click-through rate. The reason being is I've had some of my best products perform what seems to be a lower click-through rate, and some of my ones that have really good click-through rate perform poorly. So it doesn't always correlate here. So I don't have a great answer with that. But my best answer to that would be what you're doing with your front photo, your thumbnail, how well your design is in line with that market, and how relevant your keywording is going to correlate back to your click-through rate right there, which also then transitions into your second part of that question, which return on ad spend. Now, return on ad spend is a question I can answer based on data. I'm always targeting roughly between on the low end a 2.5x to a 3.5x. So average out about a 3x return on ad spend for any given product type, because it usually allows me to be profitable enough to, maintain, sharpening my listings, maintaining rank, and doing what I want Etsy Ads to do, which is a tool for my business to really impact my organic side, which is 80% of my business anyways. So really target between a 2.5 to 3.5x return on ad spend collectively. Some products will be at a 5x, some products will be at a 2x, but averaging out to about a 3 would be ideal.
So I'm going to put another timestamp to 1 hour into the video, 2 o'clock our time, addressing that really quick. Again, I'm going to release a YouTube video in the next couple of weeks going over Etsy ads and just complete almost like Etsy ads course in regards to kind of what I look at. I mentioned in episode 2 when I do the product research where I like the 13% and then I forgot to address that. I was supposed to address that in episode 6, but I forgot to talk about it. And everyone's asking me, like, what was the 13%? You never addressed that. So when Etsy displays your ad spend side by side with how much money you made from the ad spend, that's your ACoS, your advertised cost of sale. So if you spent $100 to make $200, your ACoS is 50%. Most people doing print on demand have a profit about 20-25%. So if your ACoS is above 20-25%, your ads are not profitable. But again, we use Etsy ads as a tool to drive rank, and I get 4 times more sales in my organic listings than my Etsy ads. So I'm okay with having an ACoS above 20-25% to drive rank to get 4 times more sales in my organic listings that don't have that cost associated to it. So in my personal business, I have about a 30-35% ACoS, and I could probably optimize that a little bit better. But I look at, because I'm using Etsy ads to drive rank for my organic, I don't compare my ad spend to my ad revenue. I compare my ad spend to my total revenue because that's the byproduct of that cost, if that makes sense. So I call it TA cost, TACOS, TACOS, total advertising cost of sale. So my ACoS is like 30-35% and my TA cost is 13%. So I'm like, I know after everything normalizes, everything's ranked, it's the 80-20, a few months down the road, it'll normalize around 13%. At that point, am I profitable? No, I don't even want to bother. So that's where the 13% came from. And again, I'll talk about that more in more detail when I release the ads YouTube video.
Awesome. Paul said, totally understand your answer, Jesse. The buyer for digital versus POD is different. I guess a better question is, does sales on the listing drive rank for other listings in your shop with similar keywords? So I don't have the exact data on this, so I'm going to give you the best answer I can. I would say that it's still, because it's a different product type, different product category listed on Etsy, I don't believe it's going to necessarily impact your sales for other products. So let's say you had wraps and tumblers. I don't believe it's really going to correlate over to your physical products with the tumblers. Now, I'm human, so I could be wrong here. But maybe, Steven, do you want to chime in on that? Do you have any ideas on that one?
Can you rebuttal the question? I was reading some other questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Paul is asking, basically, I guess a better question is, does sales on one listing drive rank for other listings in a shop with similar keywords? So this would be digital tumbler wraps to then the physical tumbler itself. If he's selling the digital at a high volume, does that help with his physical tumblers because the keywords are similar?
Okay, perfect. So the only benefit that the SVG sales would have to the physical would be that if you get sales, Etsy displays your sales at the shop level. Then the reviews, it shows you reviews at the shop level. So then it might help your social proof and your conversion a little bit. But I do think that it could also create some confusion where some people are going to your shop to buy SVGs and they're clicking other products, and those are the physical ones. So it could create some confusion to the shopper. So I am a believer in having a hybrid shop where, like on the challenge store, I'm going to sell on the same one shop apparel, phone cases, tumblers, and Christmas ornaments, and not just be like one niche specific. It's like all designs go outside of, but taking out like, the ones I wouldn't want to sell. So I probably wouldn't mix those two together. And yeah, and again, like in terms of, I have a hybrid shop and we don't get a ton of crossover. Like if someone's looking for one product, they're not necessarily looking for the other product. So I don't think someone would go there looking for the SVG and then like add to cart a tumbler, so I don't think someone's going to go there and then get a higher add to cart value, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question. One person asked, do you recommend creating a bunch of listings unlisted and then bulk release them at the same time? I don't do that personally. I don't see it there being a benefit to doing that. So I would just say, hey, just like what I would recommend is I wouldn't give yourself a goal of like, hey, you should release 10 listings a day. I would say give yourself a goal of like you need to work X amount of hours a day or X amount of hours a week, because that number of listings will get better and better and better as you get better and better and better and faster. So just almost treat it like a job in regards to like, if you treat it like a hobby, you're gonna get hobby results. If you treat it like a job, you're gonna get like business results. So if you're like, hey, I gotta work 20 hours a week in this business, my schedule is this, I'm just gonna, these are gonna be my tasks. That's kind of how I would look at it, and then just launch as you're doing it. And hopefully that answers that question.
All right, I've seen some HelloCustom questions below. Don't see other main ones.
Let's see. One person says that they live in Germany. Do you recommend targeting my country or other countries? I don't have a great answer for that. Jesse, do you think most sales on Etsy happen in the United States? Do you think that's where a bigger pool of customers are at?
Yeah, I definitely think it's more worth your time to focus. I'm not saying that other countries don't have decent sized markets. I just think that selling POD items targeting the US market is going to be the best. So if you have your print provider as your location for your item fulfillment, you can target the US markets there. So I suggest that over targeting other countries.
I was talking to somebody last week who lives in the UK, and he's made, I think, $600,000 in the last 12 months. He just started, and he lives in the UK, and he only sells to the US marketplace. So that might be a good answer, is that like he chose not to go after the UK. He went after the US, and he's making enough to where he's taking 6 figures profit.
Awesome. How big of a difference does a star seller badge make? Getting it on August 1st. So Etsy's star seller stuff. I believe that it's not going to make that big of an impact. I'm sure that some buyers may, say, awesome, this is a star seller. So it gives you some of that social proof there or some backing to your offer. But I don't believe it's going to do much of anything, to be honest, based on the data I have of having, good sales volume, getting the star seller badge and not getting the star seller badge and maintaining the same sales volume throughout that time. So I don't think it's going to be a big pivotal piece for your business.
And then there's a user called Kayla Bali. If you just want to email me this at support@hellocustom.io, I'll look into that. So we might be looking at the cache there. That looks like it's a bug. So if you just want to email that to me, I'll have the dev team. I'll get that fixed in the next day.
Let's see, in tags and title, do you use commas or types to separate words? So I'm funny with my titles. I've always used like dashes because I'm a male, I guess, and I compartmentalize things in pieces. I like to see which terms I'm hitting, but honestly, it's not going to really make a big impact whether you use commas or dashes or not. Now, the only downside is if you do dashes like I do, you're potentially taking away keyword real estate, because I go, whatever term space dash space. Now I've just eliminated 3 potential areas for search volume every single time I do that. So that's the only downside of that. I just like to do it because I make sure I'm hitting my terms personally. And then for your tags, I'm sure Steven's got a lot of training on this. I got a lot of training on this too. Titles and tags are so important, and how you formulate them is very crucial. So what you're putting into them and how you format them. So I'll give you a super quick, 60-second version of titles and tags real fast. So just understanding titles, the front end of your title is the most important. That's going to be the first thing you need to reference. You want to keep phrase exact throughout your title as much as possible with terms that are hyper relevant to your product. You don't want to have really broad terms. You want to keep it relevant. You also want a long tail keywords when it makes sense. So you might see a phrase exact term, you plug it into the search bar and you see something long tail off of it. And if that's relevant for your product, you can absolutely use that as well. And you want to make sure you're hitting what I call product category keywords. So let's say, for example, with the product type of t-shirts, in the product type of t-shirts, there's a lot of ways to say a shirt. There's T space shirt, there's T hyphen shirt, there's T no space shirt, there's TEE. So these are all examples of if you're not utilizing these every time, you're missing out on a lot of search volume because these potential buyers are searching for the same t-shirt with different product category keywords. So that's one aspect to titles. Now for tags, you definitely want to be using those same terms that you had in your title that you really want to drive ranks for. So ideally you'd have a phrase exact term in your title and phrase exact term in your tags that matched specifically, because it creates more relevancy for Etsy to potentially show you for that or to drive rank easier. So that's one of the main pieces to tags. But my biggest thing with all that being said, again, this is a 60-second version of it, is relevancy. If you're not relevant, you're not going to convert well. And if you turn on Etsy ads, you're going to waste your money. So relevancy is the winner on that one.
I'm glad you finished with that, because I was actually going to chime in and say, like, I prioritize relevancy almost over search volume, because if you have a product, let's say like a mug, and it says like world's best Mimi, which Mimi is just like another word for like grandma, or like my kids call my wife's mom Nina. So those are like words for grandma. So even though the search from grandma has way more search volume than Nina, it's a Nina product. They're not, these people aren't going to Etsy and they're typing in grandma gift and looking for a Nina product. They're going and they're searching for a Nina gift or Mimi gift or Gigi gift. So even though grandma has more, you want to just make it hyper relevant for that specific product. Same thing too with a lot of people doing apparel. I see that they have hybrid listings where they put like a shirt with a sweatshirt with a tank top. So you can have like the different product types, but they're putting that all on one listing and they're only using the keyword shirt. So like when someone searches for sweatshirt, you're not going to show up. And then your main image is a shirt, right? So it's like what I would do personally on those ones is I'd probably still group them together, but then I would duplicate that those listings 2 more times, where on one, I'm using the main image as shirt and the search terms with shirt. And on the next one, I'm making the main image a sweatshirt, the search terms with sweatshirt, and then tank top a tank top. That way they're more relevant for the more verticals, and then they can cross sell in between.
Awesome. Miley on Disney said, why do you always get so close to the camera? It's creepy. I think she's referring to me because I lean in. So yeah, I'm not really good on lives, guys. I just like dip in there, dip out. So sorry if you've, I think someone commented about my nose, unless we're talking about Steven, I don't know, but I think it's me leaning in here. So sorry, I'm creeping people out.
You get passionate about what you talk about when you start to lean forward when you're talking, you get super excited. It's just you're passionate about Etsy.
Yep, exactly. Awesome. Okay.
Miley Cyrus.
There's some questions popping in there. I think Stephen, Darius said, I think this is from you specifically because you're the one who does this method. Do you recommend going to the bottom of well-optimized listings and taking those relevant searches as your tags? What's your thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah, so I do that first. So essentially when I'm creating my titles, I do at the very beginning of the title, I do really relevant, broad search terms. So I think in terms of like how the workflow goes, someone goes to Etsy, they don't know exactly what they want. They're shopping, right? So they're looking for a gift for their mom. They might end up buying a shirt that says, Nina is the name, spoiling is the game. So I know a lot of people doing apparel, they put like what it says at the very beginning, but that's not what they're searching. They're searching like gift for Nina. So I put like a very discovery based search term at the very beginning. I'm not going to lean back for Miley Cyrus. So discovery at the very, very beginning. And I make sure like within the first 4 characters, which is like what they see on Etsy, I either put personalized or custom, and that's the next search term. And then I kind of like I use commas personally, and I put like what Etsy suggests if it's relevant. So I kind of go there as a nice quick pool of relevant search terms to throw into my title. And it also ensures that like when I put the search terms in my title will be the same as in my tags, if that makes sense. So typically I can at least pull like 13 relevant stuff from that, or sorry, about 10 of the 13 from there. And then I might just put a couple more that are like personalized gift, custom gift, or stuff like that are more relevant for personalization.
Nice. So I'm going to answer just one question. I have another one to throw your way, Stephen. So the new Etsy image dimensions, for those of you who don't know, Etsy just announced the square images because they've said it's better for conversion because all the buyers are on mobile, which thank you, Etsy, for catching up 5 years late. But with that being said, I've had a lot of questions of like, do I need to go revamp all my listing photos? What should I do? My biggest feedback is, don't change your current work. You're going to spin on the hamster wheel, revamping all of that. Anything you do moving forward, though, it's smart to align with what Etsy is doing. We're playing in Etsy's backyard with everything that we do. So aligning to what Etsy wants is going to help us convert better. So I would recommend new listings you do moving forward, go with the square aspect ratio. So I think you said 2,000 on a shorter end. So it's square. So it'd be like 2,000 by 2,000 or 3,000 by 3,000, anything that makes it square. And then Daniela, I've seen this question asked a few times, so I'm going to throw it back your way, Stephen, because this is from you. Said, how do you know when to raise your prices on items? You mentioned that you put it on a break-even price until it's on the first page. How do you know when it's ready?
Yeah. So what I do personally is I launch any product that's a new listing that I create. What I do is I drop the price point to my break-even price after fees. So it's about 15% fees if you include like the transaction fees, the renewal fees, and things like that. So after I add those fees to my costs, I drop my price point to that. And I also do daily flash sales. So keep that in mind that like I want it to be that price after my 50% off flash sale. So I'll raise it, I'll times it by 2. That's the display price, but then I do a 50% off flash sale to that price point. And then I turn on Etsy ads, because the cheaper something is, the more volume it will sell, and sales velocity is the number one variable to drive rank. So I found that like when it's at my break-even price and everything else is done correct, like good SEO, good listing, good templates, my conversion rate will 3 to 4x. Therefore, I'll drive rank 3 to 4 times faster. What I do is I let it run for about a week, 10 days, because I know it takes time. And then I'll go into like an incognito window, and then I'll just search like some broad search terms for that product. Typically what I put at the very beginning to see where I'm ranking and to see if I'm climbing rank. And typically I like to let it at least sit until I'm on page 1. Which could take a few weeks or 3 weeks. It takes time. So you gotta be patient with it. Nothing's going to happen overnight. Even with ranking 3 to 4 times faster, it still takes about a month to do it. So, but I try to wait till it's on page 1 from an incognito's view. And then at that point, I raise the price back up to the price I want it to be, for example, $17.99, $17.49, and then I'll let it run from there.
Super good. Ryan said, do you use the same mockups or main mockup, or swap it out for each listing? So I'm a huge believer in finding the best of the best for the product type I'm in, the top variation displayed with a background to that aligns with the buyer's interest. So this would be the theme, the style, the overall vibe to that, to build that out one time super effectively and use that on all my listings, regardless of what it's for. Now, you can take that one extra layer if you want to. This is all about prioritization though. Is it more worth your time to launch additional listings or spend the time making other mockups? So you can absolutely change your front photo and gear it for a specific holiday. So imagine you're looking for a Christmas themed shirt, for example. If you're looking in search and there's one that is on a model, maybe there's a Santa hat popping into it, it's got a red badge on there and snowflakes falling or whatever it might be, that's going to be more relevant for that style design. So of course, that's going to naturally have better click-through rate. So this all comes back to prioritization though. Like, is it worth the time for you to spend it on that? Or is it more worth your time to just launch more products and leverage more search volume with having the same standard, front photo that you spend a lot of time on to make sure it still aligns with the market? So for me, 95% of the time, I've sat with the same exact front photo, or one or two, maybe I swap it out depending, but I'll keep the same front photo in place regardless of what the item is for, what event it is, or anything like that. I'll keep rocking that same front photo.
Exactly. The only time that I would recommend to do it different is if I think apparel is probably the only one that makes sense where there's a model, if you use a model shot. So if it's like a grandma shirt and it's like, a 22-year-old female wearing the shirt, it doesn't make sense. Or if it's like a guy wearing the shirt, it says World's Best Grandma. So I'd probably have the models be relevant to the search thing, but then use those same models for all the mom shirts, all the guy shirts, etc. If that makes sense. So do you guys use the same keywords for a batch of the similar niche listings? So I do personally. There are some downfalls to that where what I've found in mine is typically one or only a couple of the listings will rank. And the reason why is because you're kind of competing against yourself. So one list, so if I launch 6 styles for one, if I launch 6 variations, like a design concept for like one concept, so 6 different listings, and I launch them at the same time, what I found is only one gets ranked to page 1. But I'm okay with that because I put them as variations on each other. So, and I think the reason is because they kind of compete against each other for the search terms, and Etsy will only rank one of the 6. So I do that, but just keep in mind that it can throttle some other listings from getting ranked.
We have one that says, hi, Jesse, in your videos, you mentioned to find a niche. Aren't we doing the products available in InnerCircle? What do you mean when you say find your own niche? The reason why I'm answering this one is because there's not a single video I have where I say find a niche. I'm like anti-niche. If I had a shirt right now that I could put some on, I'd say anti-niche. Reason being is I feel like niching down is lowering the potential for your business. You're lowering the ceiling down versus like, so for example, I'll break it down from the basics here. The, marketplace of Etsy has 100 million buyers. So you have 100 million buyers to work with. Now, obviously, to leverage what Etsy's giving you 100 million buyers, you have to have focus. You can't just offer products for all 100 million buyers. So with that being said, my approach is by a product type, because I'm able to do my research, get the understanding and stay relevant enough, but keep my ceiling up high enough. Maybe it's 10 notches up. Now, if I was to niche down, I would drop that ceiling. Wham! This would be my potential. So even if I hit an absolute home run and I did amazing in one niche, I'm forever going to be throttled by that ceiling. So this is why I'm not personally a person to niche down. So I definitely would suggest, if you have gone through any of my trainings, go through some more, because I do not talk about niching down.
I think niching down it would make a lot of sense if you're selling off Etsy, where, because like as people are going to Etsy, they're not looking for you specifically. They're not looking for, a bunch of dog products. If you're off Etsy, you got to create a brand, you got to be relevant. You know, if you're pixeling your website, you want to have like a specific customer, you know, a dog lover, right? Or someone who's really into like a certain niche. It makes sense to niche down there. But for Etsy specifically, like Jesse mentioned, is you're almost throttling yourself. So Jesse does. You're kind of broadening out a little bit, but you were doing product specific stores. Like the niches were wide, but it was like one product type. Like this is like a shop for this, this is a shop for this type of product, and shop for this. I'm even more broad than that. I'm like, no, one shop holds everything. So I'm a big believer in just putting it all in one spot, because they will find the listing independent of the shop. They'll typically just buy there. Sometimes they shop the shop, but in terms of like cross sales, I don't get it enough to where it makes me think that they're conflicting with each other enough. Some person mentioned Fortnite. The person Fortnite mentioned, how do you guys find your mockups? So next Friday, I'm going to drop a video where I'm going to create the listing images from scratch. It's probably like a 1 or 2 hour video where just live, I'm going to open up Canva and like, hey, I'm going to create my listing images for tumblers. Like, how do I do it? What do I start with? How do I find images? I personally use Canva because I'm not a designer. And then in that video, you can kind of see like my workflow, my process of how I create my images. For the lifestyle shots and things like that, I just go to Etsy and I type in like, you know, mug mockup, or, you know, tan shirt, bell canvas, you know, model, or things like that for the stuff. But then I use Canva to like, you know, format it the certain way that I format my listings.
I got an answer for a question here in a second, but everyone should just applaud Steven for a second on all the value. He's like, I got a video on this coming out. I got a video on that. He's just killing it with the value. Applause for Steven there. That's amazing. Meg said, mockups, won't using the same model mockups turn a customer off seeing the same thing when they visit your shop. So let the data tell you more than anything. So for me, 420,000 plus sales on Etsy, predominantly in the product types I offer. I have the same front photo on 95% of them. So the data tells me different on that. Now you might think, logically speaking, that sounds as if, you know, if it was like there's 100 shirts in a shop or 500 shirts in a shop and they all have the same front photo, that it would deter buyers away. But you got to think about the nature in which people are finding your items. They're finding them in search. They're not, yes, they go and look at your shop. They want to see what you have to offer. They want to see your reviews and things like that. However, they're looking for that individually searched for product. So that's why when you do the mock-up one time over and you make it to the best of your abilities, if you try to do a second mock-up and a third mock-up and a fourth mock-up just to create variety, you're going to lose quality on that. It's not going to be as aligned to the market. It's going to be leveraging variations that sell less than your top variation and things like that, where that's actually going to hinder your business rather than being afraid of having no variation to it, and that's going to throttle sales. From the data I've seen, it's totally fine to have the same front photo.
The only thing I would add to that is, so like next Friday, I'm dropping the video where you guys are going to watch me build it from live. So if everyone copies and like, hey, I'm going to go use it, I'm going to go do tumblers or mugs, I'm going to do the exact same layout that Steven does. And then someone types in tumblers and everyone has the same thumbnails and everyone has the same second images and everyone has the same third images. If you copy the person everyone's copying you as well. And then then no one wins. So I think it's okay to copy yourself if it's all unique within your shop. But if you go to search and then all tumblers have that same thumbnail, then that's kind of where it's like, hey, what's going on here? One person, Aaron Gale, asked, if you have 100 listings, is it normal for only 20 or 30 of them to get sales on Etsy? Because it's a numbers game. That is 100%, I think, normal. Every single listing that you launch isn't going to be a home run all the time. So it is definitely a numbers game. The reason why I do like my master list and I do as much prep before creating listings is because it takes just as much time to create a listing that doesn't sell as it does create when it does sell. So if you're launching listings to launch listings, that number will be more skewed. So knowing that not everyone's going to, essentially, if you give everyone its best effort, less of them will be in that 80, 70% that's not selling.
Sandra said, every guru says to niche down and you guys say no. It gets confusing. And so I'm not saying that you can't find success niching down. It's just not how I've approached it. And I believe that you're throttling your ceiling there. Again, I speak from experience. I'm not just patting myself on the back, but I have sold over $10 million in products on Etsy and Amazon. So this comes with a lot of understanding with that, and not niching down. I believe if I would have niched down, I'd be far underneath that number overall. So yes, you can.
One thing I want to add really quick, Jesse, is if you add every single guru that teaches on YouTube, including myself, if you add all of our sales combined, you've sold more on Etsy than all of us combined, including myself. If you take my 3 million, add that to every single person combined, you've sold more than us. So it's like, we should take what you say and like, Jesse knows a thing or two. And again, like, and again, everyone teaches from their experience. So they might have been told to niche down when they started. They niched down, and then, hey, they made $500,000. Now they're teaching YouTube videos. They're teaching from their experience, and it worked for them. So they feel comfortable telling you to do what they did. Jesse and myself took a different route that worked for us, and we're just telling you what we did. So again, just like both, I think both work, and we both have valid reasons for our statements. So it's just like, you just got to pick the direction you want to go with your business.
Love that. Question. I'm selling different POD shirt colors. Should I use one image page to show all the colors with the designs on the shirt? And good to see you on here, Jesse. So I think you're referring to like your secondary photos. I believe, is that Byron? I think I can tell from your photo. I think it's Byron. Sorry if it's not you, but glad to have you on here as well. So with your secondary photo showing these variations is really helpful, I think, with t-shirts. So I like to, with the product type of t-shirts, to emphasize some of these main variation colors that I know are top sellers. These would be ones I'd put on like lifestyle photos when I'm maybe describing other things about my product, and then have a collective 1 or 2 where I show all the colors I have to offer. I prefer to add the graphic on there as well, because then it gives the potential buyer visibility on what this graphic looks like specifically with all the colors you have to offer. So having like one bigger, it'd be actually shrunk down, like, might have 12 variation colors, all small ones where you can actually see, and then having your top selling variations, bold on your photo templates where you have like lifestyle shots with that one. It might be like your mauve pink and your heather gray, and the ones that actually drive the sales in that product type. So I think yes, you should definitely have those displayed.
Perfect. That's a great answer. I think we are getting to a point now, guys, where we're gonna have to get a hard stop here in like the next couple of minutes. So I just want to say thank you everyone who's in the chat for taking the time to join us live. I know it's Friday. I know everyone's busy. You guys have 1,000 things on your plate, but you took the time to sit with us for the last hour and a half. So I really appreciate you guys for joining us live, and I hope that we did what we came out to do, to offer some value, help you guys pass some sticking points in your business, and hopefully give you guys a little bit more direction in your businesses. And I also want to give a big thank you to Jesse, for I know you are even more busy. So thank you so much for on your Friday to take the time to join our audience live. If you guys have questions that we missed, or if you're watching the replay of this will be available on the YouTube channel. So if you have more questions or watching the replay, drop your questions in the comments below, and then I'll try to address them there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys. Hopefully we added some good value for you. And yeah, let's have